Have you ever wished to be unshakable, untouched by rejection, immune to criticism, beyond the reach of betrayal? Have you imagined walking through life with a strength so absolute that nothing could pierce it? We spend years chasing that dream, the dream of becoming untouchable, believing that if we are smart enough, accomplished enough, strong enough, we can finally escape the sting of disappointment and the ache of loss. But the truth is both unsettling and freeing. As long as you try to avoid pain, it will control you. You can build walls, create masks, and armor yourself in the hope that nothing can get through. You can tell yourself you don't care, that you've outgrown the things that used to hurt you. But deep down, the things you push away still live within you. They wait, and at the right moment, they rise again. Pain, ignored, does not vanish. It becomes the quiet master of every choice you make, the invisible hand guiding your reactions. And the harder you try to suppress it, the tighter its grip becomes. True strength isn't found in numbing yourself or in pretending to be above it all. It isn't about being cold or indifferent. Real strength is born when you face the parts of yourself you've kept hidden, the insecurities, the fears, the grief, and allow them to step into the light. It is born in the willingness to feel, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're bleeding inside. Because the goal isn't to stop feeling. The goal is to stop being controlled by what you feel. And the only way to do that is to integrate every part of yourself, the light and the shadow alike. This is the path to becoming truly unshakable. Not a stone wall that resists every blow, but a deep-rooted tree that bends with the storm and still stands tall. Most of us believe that what hurts us lives out there, in the words people speak, in the actions they take, in the betrayals and rejections we've endured. We point to the moment someone walked away, the insult they hurled, the promise they broke, and we say, "That is what hurt me." But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Nothing outside of you has the power to wound you, unless there is already an open wound within. What really hurts is not the event itself, but what it touches inside you. It's the story you tell yourself about it, the memory it awakens, the old scar you've never let heal. Carl Jung taught that the pain we feel in the face of the external world is merely a reflection of what is yet to be integrated into our inner world. This is why two people can experience the same loss or criticism, and one walks through it with clarity, while the other crumbles. It is not the size of the blow, but the place it lands. Some of us are still carrying wounds from childhood, disappointments from years ago, unresolved grief we've disguised with pride and the performance of strength. And every fresh hurt simply presses against those unhealed places. This is an uncomfortable truth. You suffer so much because, deep down, you still believe you can control how the world should treat you. You believe that if you are kind enough, smart enough, strong enough, no one will harm you. But control is an illusion, and the more you cling to it, the more life will feel like a constant struggle to predict the unpredictable, to prevent the inevitable. The irony is that this desperate attempt to shield yourself from pain only makes you more fragile. If you truly want to stop suffering, you must stop protecting yourself from suffering. What you need is not more control, but more awareness. Because as long as you believe people need to change for you to find peace, you remain a prisoner of their actions. Your freedom begins the moment you understand that the real battlefield is not out there. It's in here, in the inner echoes that give outside events their power. And it is in this battlefield, the unconscious, where your true liberation begins. One of the greatest lies we've been taught is that we are in control of our lives. That if we work hard enough, prepare well enough, think far enough ahead, we can ensure that life treats us kindly. But Carl Jung reminded us that as long as we live on autopilot, reacting without understanding why, we are not in control at all. We are being directed by something deeper, the unconscious, and we mistake its influence for fate. Think about the moments when anger seemed to explode out of nowhere, or sadness washed over you without warning. Those feelings didn't just appear. They were triggered by something buried far beneath the surface. They are messages from forgotten parts of you, memories, fears, traumas you've tried to silence. The unconscious is not just a vague cloud of thoughts. It is an active force shaping your emotions, your choices, your relationships. And as long as you ignore it, it will run your life without you even knowing. This is why the illusion of control is so dangerous. You might believe you're steering your own ship, when in reality, unseen currents beneath the surface are deciding your direction. You try to control your environment, the people around you, the way others speak to you, hoping that if you can arrange the world just right, you'll be safe. But this is exhausting. It's like trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands. The harder you try, the more life proves that control is temporary and safety, at least in the way you imagine it, is an illusion. The real power does not come from controlling the world. It comes from understanding yourself so deeply that the world's unpredictability no longer shatters you. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That is the work, to bring light into the shadows, to see the patterns you've been repeating, to recognize the triggers that pull you into old pain. Only then does the grip of control loosen, and in its place, awareness takes root. If you want to know where the real battle for your freedom is fought, don't look outside, look inward. The battlefield is not the criticism you receive, the rejection you face, or the betrayal that blindsides you. The battlefield is the space within you that reacts to those moments. The hidden territory Jung called the unconscious. The unconscious is everything about you that you do not yet see. Every unhealed wound, every repressed memory, every fear you've learned to silence. These hidden parts of you are not gone just because you've ignored them. They remain active, shaping your behavior and deciding how you feel before your conscious mind has time to catch up. This is why certain words can cut you to the bone while leaving someone else untouched. They are touching something raw within you, something alive that has never been met with compassion or understanding. The truth is, you've been tripping over the same hidden obstacles for years, the same patterns of self-sabotage, the same relationships that repeat the same wounds, the same fears that arise even when everything seems fine. You tell yourself it's bad luck or that the world is just cruel. But in reality, it is your unconscious trying to wake you up. It is calling you to look at what you've refused to see. And here's the paradox. The more you try to protect yourself from external pain, the more vulnerable you become to the internal pain you've avoided. As long as you do not know your unconscious, you will remain a puppet of your emotions. The world will pull the strings, and you will dance to rhythms you do not understand. The way out is not found in defending yourself harder. It's found in integrating yourself deeper, in meeting every shadow, every flaw, every insecurity, and making peace with them. Becoming untouchable is not about being made of stone. It's about becoming whole, so that nothing outside you can touch what you've already embraced within. Most people believe that the way to avoid getting hurt is to close themselves off. They build walls so high that no one can climb them, wear masks so convincing that no one can see past them, and craft an emotional armor that keeps everything at a distance. They tell themselves, "I don't care anymore. Nothing gets to me." And maybe, on the surface, they seem unshaken. But inside, they continue to bleed. The truth is, shutting yourself down doesn't make you strong, it makes you fragile. Because strength isn't about avoiding feelings, it's about understanding them. The more you run from pain, the more power it gains over you. The wounds you refuse to acknowledge remain open, quietly influencing every reaction you have, every choice you make. What you bury in the dark doesn't die. It waits. And when it resurfaces, because it always does, it can feel even heavier than before. Jung understood this better than most. He taught that true resilience comes not from cutting ourselves off from life, but from integrating every part of it. Light and shadow, joy and pain. You do not become untouchable by being untouchable. You become untouchable when you've already embraced the very things you once feared. When your shadows, your flaws, your insecurities are no longer enemies, but accepted parts of who you are, they can no longer be used against you. This is why avoidance makes you weaker. Because when you pretend not to care, you don't stop feeling. You simply stop learning from what you feel. And in doing so, you deny yourself the chance to grow. Becoming whole means you no longer react blindly to every slight, every disappointment, every rejection. You choose your response. And that is where your real power begins. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that being emotionally strong means being emotionally cold. That if nothing touches you, you've won. That if you can shrug off insults, never cry, never show vulnerability, you've somehow mastered life. But this is not strength, it's disconnection. It's the refusal to feel. And the refusal to feel does not make you powerful, it makes you hollow. People hide behind this mask of indifference, thinking it will protect them. They say, "I couldn't care less," as if caring is a weakness. They pride themselves on being unshaken, but inside they are brittle. Because the truth is, what they are really protecting isn't strength, it's fear. Fear of being hurt again. Fear of being seen for who they really are. Fear that if someone got too close, they'd discover the cracks beneath the surface. Jung once said, "Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul." This is a reminder that humanity, real humanity, is not in the denial of feeling, but in the full embrace of it. To be strong is not to avoid emotion. It is to face it, to understand it, to integrate it. True emotional resilience is not about closing yourself off from the world. It's about opening yourself to it, knowing that whatever comes, you have the capacity to meet it without losing yourself. When you are no longer afraid of your own emotions, you are no longer afraid of the emotions that life stirs in you. And when that happens, you stop needing to pretend. You stop needing the armor, and you begin to live as you truly are. Carl Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. Not the image you've built to be accepted, not the mask you wear to be admired, but the real you, the one that exists beneath the layers of performance and protection. Individuation is not about perfection. It's about integration, about bringing together the light and the shadow, the ego and the unconscious, until you are whole. Most of us spend our lives trying to be better people, smarter, stronger, more capable, believing that improvement will make us safe. But Jung taught that the goal is not to become better, it's to become complete. To stop rejecting the parts of ourselves we've labeled as unworthy, and instead bring them into the circle of who we are. The qualities we try to hide, our fears, our flaws, our insecurities, are not enemies. They are missing pieces of our own wholeness. When you begin this process, something shifts. You stop being controlled by the things you've been running from. The insults, the rejections, the betrayals, they may still sting, but they no longer define you. You're no longer an emotional puppet, pulled by unseen strings. You are rooted, steady, centered. You respond instead of react. Individuation is not a quick path. It requires honesty, courage, and a willingness to walk into the places inside yourself that you've avoided for years. But every step you take toward integration is a step away from fragility. Because when you are whole, nothing outside you can shatter you. And that is the beginning of true freedom. From the moment we are young, we are taught to hate pain. We're told that suffering is a sign of weakness, that crying is a waste of time, that feeling too much will only make us vulnerable. So we learn to run from it, to avoid it, to deny it. But pain does not vanish simply because you refuse to look at it. It changes shape. It hides in anxiety, in anger, in numbness, in restlessness you can't explain. And one day, without warning, it erupts, and you find yourself overwhelmed by something you thought you'd buried long ago. Jung saw pain differently. He believed that suffering was not a flaw in life's design, but a signal from the soul. Pain is the alarm bell of the unconscious, the language your deeper self uses to call for your attention. He once said, "Depression is like a lady in black. If she appears, don't push her away. Invite her to sit down, offer her a cup of coffee, and listen to what she has to say." This is the opposite of what we've been taught. We silence ourselves when we should be listening. We distract ourselves when we should be paying attention. What is your pain trying to tell you? Often, it's pointing to the parts of you that are still at war, the part that wants to grow and the part that clings to the familiar, even when the familiar is hurting you. Change hurts. Growth hurts. Letting go of old beliefs. Walking away from toxic attachments. Allowing what no longer serves you to die. These are all acts of mourning. They are small deaths, but it's in these moments of loss that space is made for something new to be born. Pain strips away the illusions you've lived behind. It shows you who you really are without the masks, without the performance, without the armor. And in that raw, unguarded space, you find the truth. Suffering is not the enemy. It is the doorway. And if you are willing to walk through it, you will not come out the same. Few people have the courage to begin the journey of individuation, and even fewer have the courage to finish it. Because this path does not promise comfort. It does not protect your ego, it dismantles it. To walk this road is to watch parts of yourself die, especially the parts you've worked hardest to protect. Jung spoke about the persona, the mask you wear for the world. It's the identity you've carefully crafted so you can be accepted, respected, and admired. But the persona is not your true self. It is, in Jung's words, a mask of collective convenience. And at some point in your journey, it must be stripped away. This is not a gentle process. It can feel like tearing off your own skin, because you start to realize that much of what you believed was you was actually just survival strategy, a role you played to get love, to feel safe, to belong. And here's the hard truth. Surviving is not the same as living. The dissolution of the persona forces you to confront what lies beneath all the performance, the insecurities, the needs, the anger, the shame. But when you face these parts of yourself without turning away, they lose their power to control you. You begin to see them clearly, to say, I know you. You are a part of me, but you are not my master. It's in this clarity, in this unflinching honesty with yourself, that a new kind of strength emerges. Not the brittle strength of armor, but the deep resilience of a solid core. You may still feel pain, but it does not break you. You may still be hurt, but you do not lose yourself. Because now, you are no longer living on the surface. You have learned to inhabit your own depths. Most people think strength means building armor, something to protect you from the blows of life. But armor is heavy. It slows you down. It keeps you distant. And worst of all, it makes you believe you are safe when in reality, you are simply hiding. The moment life throws something big enough, that armor cracks, and you realize you've spent your whole life protecting a wound instead of healing it. True strength is not about defense. It's about depth. It's about knowing yourself so completely that nothing outside of you can undo what you've built within. When you understand your own fears, your own triggers, your own pain, those things lose their power over you. Someone can insult you, and you'll hear it for what it is, a reflection of them, not you. Someone can reject you, and instead of breaking apart, you'll stand steady because you know your worth is not in their hands. The difference is subtle but life-changing. Armor tries to stop the world from touching you. Core strength allows the world to touch you without destroying you. Armor hardens you. Core strength grounds you. With armor, you live in constant readiness for attack. With core strength, you move through life with openness, not because you're naive, but because you trust yourself to handle whatever comes. This is the quiet confidence of someone who has faced their own darkness and made peace with it. You no longer need to be loved by everyone. You no longer need to win every argument. You no longer need to appear strong. Because you are strong, not in appearance, but in essence. And that kind of strength can't be taken away. There is a cost to living with this kind of depth, and one of the hardest prices to pay is loneliness. Not because you will be abandoned by everyone, but because fewer people will be able to walk beside you. Most of the world lives on the surface, behind masks, inside personas, avoiding the discomfort of self-reflection. And when you begin to free yourself from those layers, you naturally create distance from those still clinging to them. This isn't rejection. It's not pride. It's simply the reality of growth. You can no longer fit into spaces that require you to be small. You can no longer participate in conversations built on pretending. You can no longer shrink yourself to make others comfortable. And so, in that sense, you begin to stand apart. This separation can feel bittersweet. There's grief for the connections that no longer work, for the parts of your life you have to leave behind. But there's also a quiet peace in knowing that the relationships which remain, or the ones you build anew, will be rooted in truth, not illusion. They will be with people who meet you as you are, not as you perform to be. Jung understood this solitude not as a loss, but as a maturation. It is not the emptiness of being left out. It is the spaciousness of living in alignment with yourself. In that space, you learn to enjoy your own company, to draw strength from within rather than from constant validation. And from that place, the loneliness begins to feel less like isolation and more like freedom. By now, it should be clear, it is not sheer strength that protects you. It is clarity. Awareness is the true shield, the one thing that makes you unshakable no matter what life throws your way. Because without awareness, you will keep fighting shadows in the dark, reacting to pain you don't understand, letting your unconscious patterns dictate your fate. But with awareness, those same triggers lose their power. Jung famously said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." When you stop resisting your fears, your wounds, your insecurities, when you bring them into the light, they can no longer ambush you. You may still feel the sting of someone's words, the ache of loss, the disappointment of betrayal, but you will not drown in them. You will feel the wave, and then you will let it pass. Consciousness allows you to live below the surface waves of life. On the surface, storms are violent and unpredictable, but deep beneath, the water is calm, steady, untouched by the chaos above. Most people live on the surface, where every ripple feels like a threat. But when you dive deep into yourself, when you understand your own mind and heart, you find that stability within. This is the state where nothing outside you has the power to destroy you. Not because life stops being difficult, but because you stop being so easily shaken. You know who you are. You know your worth. And no matter what happens, that knowledge cannot be taken from you. If you take nothing else from this journey, remember this. True emotional immunity is not hardness, it is clarity. It is not about building walls to keep the world out. It is about expanding your awareness so deeply that nothing can take away your center. You will still feel, you will still hurt, but you will no longer lose yourself in the process. Because this is the real secret. The point is not to stop the waves from coming. The point is to learn how to stand in the water without being swept away. And that skill, that presence, comes from knowing every part of yourself. The light, the shadow, the beauty, the shame, and embracing it all. When you live from that place, life can push against you, but it can't knock you over. So I want to leave you with this choice. You can go back to pretending, to wearing the mask, to building higher walls, or you can choose awareness. You can decide, here and now, that your strength will come from truth, not from hiding. If this message resonates with you, write in the comments, I choose awareness. Let us create a movement of people who are done surviving behind armor and ready to start living with their whole selves. The next chapter of this journey begins in the video that follows. Don't stop here. Real transformation doesn't happen in a single step. It happens when you keep walking. I'll see you there.